I still can't believe how this blew up in my head yesterday, but here goes. I feel awful, but also, I think I was justified. I need to get it out. So, my friend Maggie, 30F, and I, 28F, have been friends for, I'd say, around 8 years. We met in college and stayed close, mostly through texts, the occasional weekend trip, and long phone calls when life got hectic. We're not like inseparable, but she's someone I genuinely enjoy talking to and trust most of the time. Anyway, yesterday was a mess from the start. Maggie was supposed to come see me in the city where I live. She lives about 3 hours away, usually drives. But she had taken the train this time because her car was in the shop. She'd booked a ticket for the 10:15 a.m. train, and I planned to pick her up at the station. Simple, right? She texted me around 9:30 a.m., saying she overslept and might miss her train. I tried to brush it off with a casual, okay, don't stress, just take the next one. But I could feel a twinge of frustration. I'd cleared my whole Saturday for her visit, had errands lined up so we could hang out, and was honestly looking forward to it. By 10:45, she texted again. I missed it. Can you cover tonight? Maybe I could crash at your place. I froze for a second. My apartment is small, tiny, really. One bedroom, one bathroom, and I live with my cat Milo, who's incredibly territorial. I don't normally host overnight guests, especially not unexpectedly. Plus, I was doing laundry, meal prepping for the week, and had a ton of things I genuinely needed to get done. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again. Hey, I'm really sorry, but I can't have you stay over tonight. I wasn't prepared for an overnight guest, and my apartment is super tiny. You might want to grab a hotel or a friend nearby. A few minutes later, she called. I should have known that was going to be harder than texting. Seriously, she said, her voice already sharp. You won't let me stay? I have nowhere else to go, and it's already late. I know, I said quickly. I feel bad, but I really can't. I can't tonight. She sighed loudly. You're such a bad friend. I missed one train, and suddenly you can't even help me out? You're literally letting me sleep on the street? I could feel my chest tighten. Part of me wanted to cave just to stop her from getting upset, but another part of me was so annoyed that I even had to justify this. Maggie, it's not about not helping you out. I literally don't have the space or prep for it. I can take you to a hotel if you want. She paused. A hotel? You're just going to make me pay? I thought friends were supposed to, I don't know, help each other. I didn't respond right away because I was starting to feel cornered. She's always been a bit entitled when she's stressed. But I had never said no like this before. My stomach churned as I considered the alternatives. Could I let her crash in my living room? Milo would hate it. I'd hate it. I needed sleep tonight. I told myself firmly that I had the right to say no, even though guilt started gnawing at me. I can help you find something cheap, I said finally, trying to keep my voice calm. I really can't have you here tonight. There was a long silence, just her breathing, and then softer. Wow. Okay. I didn't think you'd be like this. I hated the sound of her disappointment in my ears. It made me want to apologize and invite her over, but I held my ground. I'm sorry, I really am, but I can't. We ended the call abruptly, which made both of us tense. I spent the next half hour pacing my apartment, feeling guilty and angry at the same time. Part of me kept replaying all the times I had gone out of my way for her, driving to her place in the middle of the night when she had car trouble, lending her money for emergencies, staying up until 3 a.m. during her breakup drama, and here she was, acting like I was the villain for not letting her crash at my tiny apartment. Then she started texting again. First, a stream of guilt-laden messages. I can't believe this. I thought you'd help me. You're really selfish. Then, now after I didn't respond. Fine. I guess I'll just figure it out myself. Don't bother answering. I felt torn. Should I just call her back and give in to end the tension? I kept thinking about Milo, my laundry, the mess I'd have to clean up, and how uncomfortable it would be. I also didn't want to let her sense of entitlement dictate my choices. But the guilt was sharp. I kept imagining her alone at the train station, which made me question my own morality. By 2 p.m., she still hadn't found a place. I texted her a list of nearby hotels and motels, tried to sound supportive, but she barely acknowledged it. Then she sent a text that made my stomach drop. I guess I know where your priorities lie now. I didn't know how to respond. I put my phone down and stared at Milo sleeping on the couch. I felt terrible. But I also felt a strange sense of pride for standing my ground. My head was buzzing. I kept questioning, am I really a bad friend? Or is she just being unreasonable? Then came the call from her sister. I didn't know she'd involved anyone else. Maggie's sister sounded upset, asking why I wouldn't let her stay. I tried to explain calmly. I just don't have the space. It's last minute, and I can't accommodate her tonight. Her sister's response was short and cold. Wow, I thought you were her friend? That's kind of harsh. I hung up, feeling cornered on all sides. My anxiety was spiking. How had one missed train turned into this? And why did everyone make me feel like I was wrong for not rearranging my life for her? By the evening, Maggie still hadn't found a place. She sent a final text. Guess I'll just sleep at the station. Thanks for nothing. I sat on my couch, staring at Milo, my head spinning. I knew I had the right to say no, but everything about the night made me doubt myself. The guilt, the pressure, the calls, the texts, it all felt suffocating. And part of me wondered, was I really just being selfish? I didn't sleep much that night. I kept imagining the conversation, replaying it in my head, wondering if I should have handled it differently. I wanted to help, but I also wanted to protect my space. And for some reason, that simple boundary made me feel like the worst person in the world. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. Maggie had gone full social pressure mode, tagging me in posts on a local Facebook group asking for emergency stays, and somehow her sister had looped in a few mutual friends, Almi all asking me why I couldn't just help her out. I felt my chest tighten as I scrolled through the notifications. Each one was like a tiny jab. Aren't friends supposed to help each other? You really left her stranded? I don't get why this is so hard for you. I kept muting notifications, but it didn't help the knot in my stomach. My own friends, the ones who didn't know the full context yet, were starting to ask me questions, and I felt defensive with every response. I tried to type a calm explanation. I literally have a tiny apartment, one bedroom, and wasn't prepared. I offered to help her find a hotel. But every time I typed it, I deleted it because it felt like I was justifying myself to the world. By mid-morning, Maggie called again. I didn't answer. I stared at her number blinking on my screen and debated for what felt like 10 minutes before letting it go to voicemail. When I finally listened, her voice was low, almost whispering. Why are you doing this? I trusted you. You've never done this before. You can't just leave me like this. I thought you cared about me. I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to cry, but I also wanted to yell. I wasn't sure which would be worse. I hit delete on the voicemail and stared at the ceiling. I started pacing again. I thought about the hotel suggestions I'd sent. She hadn't responded to a single one. Had she even looked? Or was this all a guilt game? Around noon, there was a knock at my door. My heart stopped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it, and there she was, Maggie, carrying a backpack that looked heavier than she was. I standing there with a faintly desperate smile. I can't do this hotel thing. I don't want to be alone, she said, stepping forward like she expected me to move aside. I froze. Maggie, I can't. I told you. I know, she interrupted. But I thought maybe you'd let me crash for just one night. Please? I promise I'll be gone early. I'll sleep on the couch. Milo won't even notice me. Please? I tried to meet her eyes. Part of me wanted to cave. She looked tired, defeated, genuinely small in a way that made my chest ache. But another part of me, the part that remembered all the times she'd pulled this kind of thing and then acted like I owed her, refused. Maggie, I really can't. I'm sorry, I said firmly. She dropped her bag to the floor with a soft thud and crossed her arms, her voice sharper now. Young, you're really going to let me sit outside? You know it's cold, right? You know it's a Saturday and I literally have nowhere else? I felt heat rush to my face. Yes, I know. I'm not trying to be cruel. I literally can't fit you here tonight. I can't just rearrange my life for this. She exhaled sharply, like she was frustrated with me personally rather than the situation. Wow. I don't know why I thought you'd be different. I've helped you before. When you were sick that one time, I drove 2 hours to bring you soup, and now this is how you repay me? I blinked. That one incident flashed in my mind. She had, yes, driven through a storm to drop off chicken noodle soup when I had the flu. I remembered feeling touched and guilty at the time, and now she was using it against me. I'm not saying I don't appreciate that, I said slowly. I do, but that was different. I wasn't unprepared. I wasn't caught off guard. I literally can't host you tonight. I'm not punishing you. I just can't. Her eyes watered slightly, and she let out a shaky laugh. You're impossible. You really are. You think boundaries are more important than friendship? I guess that's what I get for trusting you. I felt my stomach twist. I hated that we were here, that my decision had turned into an emotional weapon. But I also knew giving in now would just reinforce this pattern. She would come to expect that if she pushed hard enough, I'd give in. I'm not trying to hurt you, I said softly. I just can't do it. She shook her head and picked up her bag again. Fine, I'll figure it out. Clearly, I am the problem for expecting basic human decency from you. Then she walked out the door without another word. I closed it behind her and sank to the floor. Milo jumped up to sit on my lap, purring like nothing had happened. I tried to calm myself, but the adrenaline kept me awake for hours. Then came the texts. First, a private message to our group chat with mutual friends. FYI, my name refused to let me stay at her place after I missed my train. She didn't care that I had nowhere else. Friends like this don't deserve friends. Within minutes, my phone was blowing up with notifications. People I barely talked to were asking why I was so cold and letting someone sleep outside. Some people were defending me, but most were shocked. I felt cornered again, like I had to justify myself to the universe. By late afternoon, a Maggie had posted on Instagram stories, vague but pointed. Funny how some people call themselves friends but won't help when it counts. Hashtag lonely Saturday. My heart was pounding. I wanted to respond, to explain, but I knew it would just look defensive. I felt trapped, my private life suddenly public. I had tried to be a good friend and set a boundary, and now it felt like I was being punished for it. I paced my apartment again, thinking about the phone calls, the texts, her face at my door, and the guilt. I felt trapped between my own needs and the expectations of everyone around me. Every time I told myself I did the right thing, another notification pulled me back into self-doubt. By the end of the day, I hadn't heard from her, but the damage was done. My phone kept buzzing with notifications from mutual friends asking why I abandoned her. Even my sister texted, asking if I'd lost my mind for not helping. I couldn't even eat dinner because I kept replaying every word, every look, every text, wondering if I was truly selfish or if everyone else had just lost perspective. The next morning, I woke up to a notification that made my stomach drop. A text from Maggie's sister. Are you really going to act like nothing happened? You're being cruel and she's crying because of you. This isn't friendship. Are you proud of yourself? I stared at the words for what felt like forever, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to throw my phone across the room. Part of me wanted to write back a long, desperate explanation. I did neither. I just sat there, Milo kneading my lap, eyed oblivious to the storm. By mid-morning, the pressure had escalated. Maggie had apparently called our mutual friends, one by one, asking them to check in on me and see why I wouldn't let her stay. Several texts popped up from people I barely talked to. Hey, just curious why you abandoned Maggie yesterday. I can't believe you let her sleep alone after missing the train. Seriously, what's your problem? We thought you were friends. Each ping felt like a hammer striking my chest. I had to remind myself to breathe. I sat down and tried to think logically. I hadn't done anything illegal, hadn't left her truly stranded. I had given her hotel options, tried to help within reason. But none of that mattered. Everyone I knew seemed to have a narrative in their head that I was the villain. Then came a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I listened, hands shaking. Hi, this is Maggie's roommate, or cousin, I guess. She told me you refused to let her stay. She's really upset. I don't get why you wouldn't just help her for one night. Are you okay? I mean, this is kind of extreme, right? I sank into the couch, Milo jumping down and brushing against me like he sensed my panic. I felt trapped. Every message, every call, every text, every post online was piling on, and I had no defense that felt strong enough. I wanted to scream, cry, run, hide. I felt cornered from every side. My apartment, my friends, her family, the social media posts. At lunch, I got a message from my boss. Apparently, someone from our mutual friend circle had sent her a message about the situation. She wanted to know if everything was okay. I tried to type a quick reply. Everything's fine. Just a personal thing. But my hands were shaking so badly, I deleted it 3 times before finally sending it. I could feel the guilt and shame radiating in waves. Around 3 p.m., there was a knock at my door. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I wasn't expecting anyone. Had I forgotten a delivery? I peeked through the peephole. It was Maggie. I felt a flush of anger and panic. I hadn't responded to any of her messages since yesterday. I had hoped she would have figured something else out. I opened the door cautiously. I just needed to see you, she said softly. Her eyes were red, face pale. She looked exhausted, worn down. I swallowed hard. Maggie, I told you, I can't let you stay. I'm not set up for this. I can't. She stepped inside anyway, barely acknowledging my words. I froze, Milo hissing softly from behind the couch. She dropped her bag again and collapsed onto the floor, leaning against my couch. I don't understand, she said, voice trembling. I thought we were friends. I thought you'd help me, just for one night. Is that really too much? I felt my throat tighten. My mind was spinning. I wanted to tell her to leave, but I also didn't want to see her like this. Maggie, please, I really can't. I can't host you tonight. I'm not set up for it. You can't stay here. Her eyes filled with tears. You're literally abandoning me. You've done this your whole life. Put boundaries before people. You're so selfish. I can't believe I trusted you. I felt something crack inside me. She was right. Maybe I had been selfish, but at the same time, I had limits. I had a right to protect my space. I'm not abandoning you, I said, voice shaking. I just can't have you here tonight. I can't. I'm sorry. She started sobbing quietly. I wanted to hug her, to comfort her, but I also felt panic creeping in. Milo was growling, the apartment felt suffocating, and I could feel my own anxiety rising. I wasn't sure what to do, so I just stood there, frozen, feeling like the worst person alive. Then she said something that made my chest drop. I told everyone you were horrible, that you left me on the street, that you don't care about me. People are asking me if they should, I don't know, report you or something. You're ruining my life. I felt my knees go weak. Maggie, you can't say that. That's not true. It is true. You didn't help me when I needed you. You left me alone. Everyone is on my side. I could feel a sense of panic and rage bubbling inside me, mixed with guilt. And I had never been in a situation where someone I trusted weaponized my refusal to give in. My own home felt hostile. My boundaries felt meaningless. And somehow, I was also supposed to feel ashamed for enforcing them. I finally managed to get out, voice barely above a whisper. You need to leave. Please. You can't stay here. I'll help you find a hotel or a friend nearby, but you can't stay. I can't. She looked at me, and for a second, the despair seemed to freeze her. Then she slowly stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked to the door, still muttering under her breath. I can't believe this. I really thought you were different. Friends are supposed to help each other, but I guess I was wrong. She left, slamming the door behind her. The sound echoed in the apartment like a punch. Milo hid under the couch, and I sat on the floor, trembling. The adrenaline and guilt combined into this heavy, nauseating weight. And then, as if the universe wasn't done, my phone buzzed again. More messages from mutual friends, more calls from strangers connected to Maggie. Every ping made my stomach lurch. My boundaries, my small apartment, my need for rest and peace all felt irrelevant. I realized I was stuck in a storm of other people's emotions, all focused on me as the villain, and I didn't know how to survive it. By evening, I couldn't breathe. I turned off my phone and curled up on the couch. Milo curled into my chest, trying to calm myself. I kept thinking, did I really do something wrong? Or had I just stood up for myself? And if that was wrong, then what does that make me? The next morning, I woke up to an email that made my stomach drop. It was from Maggie. Or more accurately, it was from her lawyer, or at least she claimed it was. The subject line read, formal complaint regarding negligence and endangerment. My hands shook as I opened it. The email was long, legal-sounding, and terrifying. She claimed that by refusing to let her stay at my apartment, she was left vulnerable and at risk, that my willful refusal to provide shelter constituted negligence, and that she was considering pursuing legal action. I felt like I'd been punched. I reread it 3 times, thinking it must be some kind of joke. But the tone, the language, and the attached document made it terrifyingly real. Part of me wanted to laugh, but another part, my chest tight, stomach twisting, wanted to throw up. I called my sister first. She answered on the second ring. OMG, did you see this? I blurted out. What? She shouted. I think Maggie's trying to sue me, or I don't know. She emailed something about being endangered because I wouldn't let her crash here. She even claims witnesses? There was silence on the line. Witnesses? What witnesses? I have no idea. Her friends, her sister, everyone she's roped in. I can't even handle it right now. I feel trapped. My sister's voice softened. Listen, you did nothing wrong. You literally can't be responsible for her decisions. She's manipulating everyone, including you. Don't respond yet? Get advice. Advice? I barely slept that night thinking about what legal advice even meant in this scenario. Could someone really get in trouble for not letting a friend sleep in their apartment? My brain kept circling around the same questions. The next morning, I got a knock at the door. And this time it wasn't her. It was a delivery from a process server. I felt my knees weaken as I signed for it. The envelope contained what looked like official court documents. She was filing for some sort of restraining or emergency protective order, claiming I had endangered her by refusing shelter. I couldn't breathe. I dropped the papers on the floor, Milo darting around my legs like he sensed my panic. I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling trapped. I'd never imagined a personal disagreement could escalate to this level. My apartment, which had always felt like a sanctuary, suddenly felt like a cage. By mid-morning, my phone was blowing up again. Maggie's sister had sent screenshots of social media posts, messages from mutual friends, even texts from strangers who had heard about the situation and felt compelled to weigh in. One mutual friend, someone I thought was neutral, texted, "I don't know what's going on, but Maggie is crying and scared and you're just sitting there. Can't you see what you've done?" My hand shook as I typed a reply. I deleted it, typed again, deleted it. I didn't know how to respond. Every word felt like it could escalate things further. Then came the revelation that truly broke me. Maggie had apparently gone through my social media and found a post from 3 months ago where I'd mentioned my weekend plans. Ironically, the same weekend she decided to visit. She had forwarded it to everyone, claiming I lied about being busy and tricked her into coming so I could avoid her. I sat there, staring at my phone, feeling like my life was unraveling. I realized then that this wasn't just about the missed train. This was about control. Every message, every post, every call, every email was designed to make me feel guilty, small, like the villain. And it was working. My heart pounded, my chest felt tight, and I couldn't stop shaking. Milo jumped into my lap, but even his warmth didn't calm me. Around noon, I decided to call a lawyer. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had to protect myself. The lawyer was calm but firm. Legally, you are in the clear. You are not responsible for your friend's decisions. Refusing to let someone sleep in your private residence is not negligence. There is no crime here. I exhaled, a little relief flooding through me, but the lawyer continued. However, her tactics, social media, involving mutual friends, am I trying to escalate this to legal threats, are a form of harassment. You need to document everything and avoid direct contact with her. Don't respond to texts, calls, or social media posts. Let her lawyer handle communication if she escalates further. I nodded, feeling both relief and dread. Relief that I wasn't actually about to be sued into oblivion. Dread that Maggie had somehow convinced an entire social circle, and now a small online audience, that I was in the wrong. Later that evening, I got a text from a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. It was short. "Saw Maggie's post. I can't believe you would treat her like that. Are you okay? Do you need help?" I stared at it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to respond, defend myself, but I knew the lawyer was right. Every response gave her more ammo. My boundaries, my safety, my sanity, they all felt like they were on the line. But I had to hold firm. By the time the night rolled around, I had stopped checking my phone. I curled up on the couch, Milo on my chest, and tried to calm my racing thoughts. I realized that the situation had revealed something ugly. Not about me, but about how people can manipulate guilt and pressure to control others. Maggie had weaponized our friendship, and it had almost succeeded. But even with that clarity, I felt broken. My trust in people felt shaken. Every text ping made my heart leap. I couldn't escape the feeling that everyone was watching, judging, and that I had failed somehow, even though rationally, I knew I hadn't. The emotional toll was intense. I cried quietly that night, feeling a mixture of anger, guilt, fear, and exhaustion. It was the first time in years I felt like I couldn't protect myself. Like my home, my sanctuary, was under siege. And the worst part was, I still cared about her. I still didn't want her to be hurt. But I realized that caring didn't mean sacrificing myself. By the next morning, I'd come to dread checking my phone. Notifications were relentless. Every social media platform I had, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, had comments or messages referencing Maggie. Somehow, she had framed the situation so that I looked like I had abandoned her, left her homeless and vulnerable, and apparently betrayed a lifelong friendship. I scrolled through one post on Instagram that had been shared dozens of times. Maggie had written a long paragraph, detailing every slight she believed I'd committed. She painted a picture of me as selfish, cruel, wide, and heartless. Friends from college I hadn't spoken to in years were commenting, questioning how I could be so cold. I felt sick. I wanted to scream at my phone. Then came the DMs. People I barely knew, random acquaintances, even strangers were messaging me. "How could you do that to a friend? You should be ashamed. Friends don't act like that. She's devastated. Don't you care at all?" Every message felt like a physical blow. I kept rereading my own texts and calls, trying to justify myself in my head, but the avalanche of judgment was overwhelming. My chest felt tight, my hands were clammy, and I couldn't breathe. Milo jumped onto my lap, his purring barely enough to anchor me. I tried posting a calm explanation on my story, just a short paragraph. I offered Maggie hotel options when she missed her train. My apartment is small, and I wasn't set up for overnight guests. I care about her, but can't always accommodate last-minute requests. Within minutes, the replies were brutal. Friends I thought I could count on were responding with angry emojis, sarcastic comments, and even guilt-laden statements. Wow, if that's how you treat friends, no wonder she's upset. I felt my stomach churn. I kept scrolling, trying to block, mute, and ignore, but it was impossible. Every ping of my phone made my heart leap. I realized she had orchestrated this perfectly. Every post, every story, every private message painted me as the villain while she remained the innocent victim. By midday, my inbox was flooded with screenshots. Maggie had gone around collecting messages from friends and sending them to mutual groups, Ian asking if they supported her in confronting me. One of the screenshots was from someone I trusted who had texted, "Honestly, I think you should have just let her stay. You're being really harsh." I felt like the walls were closing in. Every relationship I had was suddenly a battleground. People I'd been close to were picking sides, some openly shaming me, others tiptoeing around my feelings. I felt isolated, panicked, and exhausted. And then came the post that broke me. Maggie had taken a photo of the station bench where she supposedly spent the night alone and posted it with the caption, "Abandoned by the people I trust. Sometimes friends aren't really friends at all." I stared at it, my chest heaving. I knew the truth. She hadn't stayed there overnight. She had gone to a friend's place across town. But who would see that? The narrative had already taken hold. I felt powerless. My phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. Hesitantly, I answered. "Hi, this is the building manager," said a calm but serious voice. "We've received complaints about disturbances involving a visitor. Is someone staying in your apartment who shouldn't be?" I froze. "No, no one's staying here. It's just a friend situation. There's no one here." "All right," the manager said. "We just wanted to clarify. We've had multiple calls and we need to document the situation." I hung up, feeling my heart pound. Multiple calls? From neighbors? This was escalating further than I ever imagined. My private life was now public, and it was terrifying. I sank to the couch, Milo curling tightly against me, feeling the weight of panic and despair. Then my phone buzzed again. Another voicemail from Maggie. I hesitated but pressed play. "I don't understand why you hate me so much. I've told everyone you abandoned me. People are asking if they should report you, if they should call the cops. I don't know what I did to deserve this. You're literally ruining my life." Her voice was shaky, pleading, and there was that twist. She sounded vulnerable, innocent, but I knew the manipulation behind it. I pressed stop and felt tears welling up. I was trapped between fury, fear, and guilt. I wanted to call someone, anyone, for help, but I felt paralyzed. Even my own support network felt fractured. I had friends trying to mediate, but many were too afraid of choosing sides. Every message, every post, every text was a reminder that I was being judged by everyone around me. By evening, I felt utterly drained. I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept properly, and my mind was spinning. I curled up on the couch, Milo tucked in against me, and just tried to breathe. I kept thinking, I set a boundary. I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't lie. I tried to help her within my limits. And yet here I was, vilified by everyone, feeling like the worst person alive. The breaking point came around 9 p.m. when a mutual friend, someone I'd known for over a decade, texted, "I can't believe you treat her like this. I don't think we can be friends if this is how you act." That was it. I sat there, shaking, trying to make sense of it. I felt my heart crack a little. I wasn't just losing one friend. I felt like the entire foundation of my social life was crumbling. And all of it, every attack, every judgment, was because I had said no. I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know how to protect myself. And I realized in that moment that even if I explained everything, even if I told the truth, the narrative had already taken hold. I felt powerless, gaslit, and utterly alone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, Milo resting on me, staring at the ceiling, trying to remind myself that I had done nothing wrong. But the exhaustion, the guilt, the social pressure, it was almost unbearable. The next few days were a blur. I barely left my apartment. My phone stayed on silent, notifications stacked up, and I avoided social media altogether. I couldn't even bear to scroll. I felt like the entire world had turned against me because I had said no. Every text, every post, every comment kept replaying in my head. My own judgment felt clouded. Was I really wrong, or had everyone else lost perspective? I decided I needed help. I scheduled a session with a therapist I'd been meaning to call for months, but kept putting off. Sitting in the office, I felt exposed, my chest tight, words stuck in my throat. I feel like I've ruined everything," I started, voice shaking. "I said no to my friend, and now everyone hates me. I feel trapped. I can't sleep. I can't think. I'm scared that I'm a bad person." The therapist didn't interrupt. She just nodded and let me ramble for a while. Then she said something simple but profound. "You set a boundary. That's not ruining anything. You didn't abandon her. You made a choice that protected your own life and space. People can be upset and people can manipulate, but that doesn't make your choice wrong. It makes you human." I cried for what felt like hours after that. Not just for Maggie or the friends, or the public scrutiny, but for myself. For the part of me that felt like I had to justify my life to everyone else. For the part of me that had forgotten that boundaries are necessary, even with people we love. That evening, I finally responded to a few texts, carefully, without emotion, without justifying myself too much. I kept it short. "I understand you're upset. I set a boundary that I needed to maintain. I cannot discuss this further. Please respect that." I blocked anyone who continued to harass me. It felt terrifying at first, but also freeing. A few days later, I got a message from Maggie herself. Short, curt. "I guess we're done. I can't trust someone who wouldn't help me when I needed them." I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was panic, guilt, desperation. But then I felt a strange sense of clarity. And I typed slowly. "I'm sorry you feel that way. I hope you're safe and okay. I can't continue our friendship under these circumstances." I hit send, and I didn't check my phone for hours. For the first time in almost a week, I felt a little space to breathe. The emails, the posts, the calls. They didn't stop immediately, but they had slowed. People started backing off, some privately apologizing once they understood the full story. Others faded out of my life entirely. And I realized that was okay. I couldn't control other people's judgments, but I could control my own actions, my own boundaries, and my own home. I started to rebuild slowly. I cleaned my apartment, organized my space, and for the first time in days, I sat on the couch without panic pulsing in my chest. Milo curled against me, his purring grounding me in reality. When I realized that my sanctuary wasn't just my apartment, it was my mind, my choices, and the ability to say no without feeling guilty. I also reached out to friends who had stayed neutral or supportive. We had long conversations about what had happened. Some were shocked by how far Maggie had gone, how she had manipulated everyone, including me. Others admitted they had initially assumed I was in the wrong, but talking it through helped me see that my feelings weren't invalid, that my boundaries weren't selfish. I thought a lot about what I had learned, about how guilt can be weaponized, how social pressure can feel suffocating, and how easy it is to question yourself when the people you care about turn judgmental. But I also realized that protecting yourself doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. It's okay to say no, even to people you love. Maggie hasn't contacted me since that short text. I don't know if she's angry, hurt, or moved on. And honestly, I don't know if I care right now. I still feel a pang of sadness when I think about our friendship, but it's tempered by the knowledge that I stood my ground, that I protected my space, my safety, and my sanity. I've started journaling again, writing down moments when I feel pressured or guilty, and reflecting on whether my boundaries are reasonable. I'm learning that saying no doesn't have to come with self-loathing, that sometimes people will be upset, but that's not a reflection of my worth. The aftermath has been exhausting, emotionally and socially, but it's also been clarifying. I've learned that my home, my space, and my peace of mind are valid priorities. That even when someone you care about manipulates, pressures, and publicly shames you, you can survive it. You can rebuild. And slowly, I feel like I am. I'm taking back control of my life in small ways. A quiet morning with Milo, uninterrupted walks, conversations with friends who respect my boundaries. It's not perfect. I still get pangs of guilt when I think about Maggie or when mutual friends ask if things will ever go back to normal. But I remind myself, I set a boundary. I acted within reason. I am not the villain in my own life. For the first time in days, I feel a little steady. And that, I realize, is enough for now. It's been about a year since all of that happened. Looking back, I can barely recognize how anxious and overwhelmed I was during that week. I replayed the events in my head countless times, and I'm wondering if I could have handled it differently, if I could have been better. But with time, distance, and a lot of self-reflection, I see things much more clearly now. Maggie and I haven't spoken since that final text. At first, the silence hurt more than I expected. I missed the parts of our friendship that were good, the late-night chats, the road trips, the random weekend lunches, but I slowly realized that those memories don't mean I owed her my life at the expense of my sanity. Sometimes loving someone doesn't mean accommodating every unreasonable demand. In the months after, I rebuilt my boundaries in small, deliberate ways. I started turning down last-minute requests from friends that didn't make sense, explaining calmly but firmly when I couldn't help. It felt strange at first, almost selfish. But I slowly discovered that people respected me more when I was honest about my limits. And the ones who didn't? Well, they slowly drifted away, and I realized I didn't mind. Social media became a tool I controlled rather than one that controlled me. I stopped posting every detail of my life, muted conversations that were toxic, and kept a smaller circle of friends. The panic that had gripped me during Maggie's posts and DMs faded. I was no longer reacting to every ping with fear and guilt. I could step back, assess, and respond, or choose not to respond on my own terms. Therapy helped a lot too. Talking through the manipulation, the pressure, and the social fallout helped me see patterns I hadn't noticed before. I learned how to recognize when someone was trying to weaponize guilt. I learned how to protect myself without feeling like a bad person. I learned that emotional labor is real, and it's okay to say no when giving more would harm me. There were some lingering consequences. A few mutual friends never fully recovered from the situation and drifted away permanently. I missed some of them, but eventually I realized that friendships that collapse under unreasonable pressure weren't friendships built on respect. And honestly, I feel lighter for it. Work was unaffected in the long run, although initially I panicked when I realized someone had tried to drag the drama into professional circles. I stayed professional, documented everything, and eventually the storm passed. I learned that most people are quick to judge without all the facts, but the facts don't change. They just get buried under noise. Emotionally, I'm stronger. I've learned to trust my instincts. When I feel cornered or manipulated, I can recognize it. When I feel guilt creeping in for saying no, I can pause and assess whether it's warranted or just a reflection of someone else's pressure. And when I feel overwhelmed by social judgment, I remind myself, my responsibility is to my own life and well-being, not to make everyone else comfortable. I also reconnected with some friends I had let drift away over the years. Those relationships felt renewed and healthier because I approached them with boundaries, honesty, and self-respect. It's not about avoiding conflict, it's about managing it in a way that doesn't destroy me. I think about Maggie sometimes. I don't feel anger anymore, really. Mostly a strange mixture of pity and relief. I pity her because she seemed so unable to accept limits or respect boundaries that it became destructive. For both of us. And I feel relief that I no longer had to carry the guilt and panic she tried to force on me. I don't know if we'll ever reconcile, and honestly, I don't want to. I care about her enough to hope she's okay, but I also care about myself enough not to invite that chaos back into my life. I've also learned to recognize the difference between true friendship and toxic attachment. True friends respect boundaries. They may be disappointed if you say no, but they don't turn it into a weapon, drag in the social world to shame you, or try to make you feel like a villain for protecting yourself. That clarity has changed how I approach friendships entirely. I'm more selective, more intentional, One, and I feel safer and happier because of it. In my apartment, Milo and I have never been happier. I can sit on the couch without tension or panic, curl up with a book without checking my phone a dozen times, and enjoy my space without fear. My home has become exactly what it should be: a refuge, not a battlefield. Sometimes I still feel a pang when I think about what happened or when I imagine Maggie reading this story, but it's no longer paralyzing. It's a memory, a lesson, a reminder that I survived something incredibly stressful and manipulative, and I came out stronger. I look back on that week: the missed train, the calls, the emails, the social media storm, and I realize it taught me one of the most important things about life and friendship. Boundaries aren't betrayal. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. Protecting your space and your sanity doesn't mean you don't care. And sometimes the people who can't respect that aren't meant to stay in your life. I still get messages from people who heard about the incident, even now, months later. Some are curious, some judgmental, some sympathetic. I answer carefully, calmly, or not at all. I don't let anyone else dictate my emotions anymore. I finally learned to live on my own terms. Looking back, I don't regret standing my ground. I don't regret saying no. And most importantly, I don't regret choosing myself over someone else's manipulation. I've survived the storm, and for the first time in a long time, I feel truly at peace. Sometimes peace is just choosing your own life, and that's enough.